Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Town of Vesuvius Committee of the Whole, January the 14th, 2025 at 9 a.m. in Council Chambers. First off, we will do the approval of the agenda. And are there any late items, Mrs. Robinson?
No, but there will be a change to the delegation order, so if we could just acknowledge that, and then we can approve the agenda.
Not a problem. We'd like to change the delegation order and have number 2, Music in the Park first, and secondly would be the Desert Park Exhibition Society. Okay, thank you. And so could we have a motion, please, to approve the agenda as amended? Thank you, Councillor King, Councillor Chong, all in favor. Thank you. And we're looking for the adoption of the whole minutes on December the 10th, 2024. Could we have a motion for that? Councillor Poderica, Councillor Bennett, all in favor. Thank you. And so now we will go on to petitions and delegations, and we will ask Music in the Park. There's 3 of them there. Are you all coming up to the front or just one? Mrs. St. Louis, go ahead, please. This is a community grant application, and Music in the Park would like to give us some information about what they're planning for this year. Thank you.
Good morning. And thank you, Mayor and Council. Good morning. A little nervous. Our daughter's in labor right now, so we're waiting to hear. Anyway, we are actually applying for funds from the Resort Municipality Initiative. That was an error on the agenda item. Anyway, Clint Hawes and I are here representing Osoyoos Music in the Park. Our 2 other amigos are enjoying themselves on the beach in Mexico for winter, so we're taking over all the responsibilities right now. Anyway, thank you for asking us to, inviting us to review our application. Our understanding is that since our application exceeds $15,000, that we are to talk to council and be able to answer any questions that you have about our application. So hopefully you've already reviewed our 2025 application for funding. We've requested $38,000 to operate our program this summer. That's the same amount that we asked for in 2024, in which we received $30,000. And within our application, we reviewed all of the activities, a report on how the events went, along with our constitutional bylaws. We have our own code of conduct policy, and we confirm that we're a member in good standing of the BC Societies Act. And so a little bit of background. We have been in existence since 2015. And our final concert was last year was our 94th concert. I actually counted them last year. I was quite surprised. And so this summer, if we go ahead, we'll be celebrating our 100th concert since we started. Our first concert brought 60 people. The weather wasn't the best, but it was our first concert. And we're very proud to say that our last concert last year had roughly 2,500 people in attendance. That was our Eagle Eyes concert if you happen to attend. So it works out as an average about 700 people per concert when you break it down, even prior to our largest one. In addition to doing the concerts, we also maintain a public piano at Gyro Park. We had it created, was donated by a local family. We had 2 local artists artistically paint it. There's a burrowing owl and sunflowers on it. And we have a local businessman, actually Payman, who allows us to store it in a storage facility all winter. And by maintaining, I mean that we have it professionally tuned every year and professionally moved by a moving company. And sometimes there's repairs needed to the cover for it, the base that, or the cover that was built to keep it safe. Our goals for 2025 are to remain free to the public, our concerts, inclusive and free of barriers due to either cost or accessibility. You'll probably see, if you come to the concerts, there's quite a few people in wheelchairs. Mariposa except for last year, has been bringing 10 to 12 residents to each of the concerts. And we enjoy the fact that any family can come, whether you have 10 kids or 2 kids. There's no barriers because of the cost. And we feel that that's what our tourists have come to love. Our residents certainly enjoy it as well, and our local businesses as well. You see a lot of people with either packages of pizza boxes or food that from takeout from local businesses. Each year we try to do something to expand to reach a little further. And this year we have added a concert specifically for children. And that's going to be held. We're in preliminary discussions with another nonprofit to combine 2 activities with the art gallery. And we've already got a grant, and for that, the cost for the children's concert, as well as a local business, Home Hardware, is contributing a significant amount of money. So that concert is beyond this funding that we're asking for. That's already taken care of. We've done that. So if we're successful with the application that we've made for RMI funding, we'll plan to produce between 10 and 12 concerts for next year. Our other goals is to grow our audience by engaging them more online. I'll tell you about that in a minute. And we'll be able to capture more analytics in terms of who's coming, where they're from, and how many times they've attended and their preferences. We're also working on more corporate sponsorship. We have a corporate sponsorship package that we've developed in conjunction with a sort of a friend of Music in the Park, but it's a proper document that shows if you donate this much money, it'll be the gold level and silver level and what you'll get in return in terms of advertising. So we're working on that right now. Watermark has already agreed to donate meals for all of our band members. Harder to get cash now because, well, for one thing, there's a lot of competition from other local nonprofits as well for the same pot of money, but we are working on that. We're improving our website. We actually have a brand new one that's about to be launched within the next week or two, done by a retired professional designer. And so she's put in an incredible amount of hours pro bono for us. So that's invaluable.
Excuse me, that was the 5-minute mark. Do you have any idea how much longer you would be? And I'm happy to allow. Go
Was
ahead.
that actually 5 minutes? Okay,
to
sorry.
interrupt. As these were invitations to come, they can continue on for 10 minutes.
Thank you very
apologize.
much.
Okay,
Go
yeah, I
ahead,
did
Mrs.
read 10
Singler.
minutes somewhere. All right, okay. So what we're asking for is an increase in funding from what we received last year. And this increase would go exclusively to the cost of the bands, the actual fee we pay to them, and the sound and technical costs. Our fixed costs remain the same no matter whether we have 2 concerts or 12. You know, we have certain things we have to pay, insurance and so on, but the other money that we're asking for is to improve. What we'd like to do is offer some more higher caliber bands for the audience. And I'm skipping through some of these. Our members are volunteers. No one is paid. This budget is bare bones, and it's just exactly what it costs to put on a concert. And we do get as much free help as we can besides our contribution. So the cost per concert, if you're looking at dollar value, is $27.50 per concert, $2,750. That's very reasonable. And if you break it down into per attendee, it's just under $4 per person. So that our budget was created for next year based on our ask of 38,000. We do have funds that we did receive from our tip jar that we can talk about if you like. But was not included in this was a bill. that we received after we submitted our application. That bill is for $4,000 for the use of Gyro Park. And that works out to $400 a concert. And in total, it costs more. That $4,000 is 1.5 concerts are cut back. So basically, what we're asking for today is to discuss that with you. We would love it eliminated, but I know that that's probably not possible, but we'd like to discuss it with you. It will severely impact what we're able to do. And normally we've already contracted with bands by mid-January. And what will we do if we do not receive RMI funding? We just won't have a program. We've got the children's concert that will go ahead because we already have committed money. So our ask today is $38,000 from the RMI money. So that is, I did read after that you've got a recommendation amounts for this afternoon to discuss. So it would be an increase of what you've had recommended to you of 32.5. And we ask if the usage of Gyro Park can be reduced maybe to $1,000 for the whole season. $100 a concert night, something like that. And the other thing is we want you to think of us, or realize that we're not one event. You know, when you look at the list of who got what and so on, we're 10 events or we're 12 events. You know, whether we have one concert or, you know, it doesn't take much to go back and figure out how much Desert Live concert costs. It was 2 days and it was in excess of $50,000 from RMI money. Anyway, so we consider ourselves as providing a great value for tourists. It's within the keeping of the intent of the RMI program. We're enhancing the tourist experience. And that being said, we have a letter of support from Destination Osoyoos. And anyway, after that, Clint is here as well with me. And if you have any questions for us.
Thank you very much, Janice. We certainly appreciate all that you and the Amigos do. I have certainly enjoyed all the concerts, and I think I've been to most of them over the last 10 years. So I absolutely appreciate your ability to put on terrific concerts over the years. I'm going to open it up and just see if anybody at the council has any questions further. We don't make decisions today, but we certainly appreciate you coming. Is there anyone who has a question? Go ahead, Councillor King.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. A couple of questions, actually. You've come forward with a sponsorship program. Have you received any sponsorship moving forward?
We've received commitments, yes, a few of them. I'm still working on a few, yes.
Okay, and the other.
Fortis has given us has promised to give us some money. Watermark has offered meals for the bands when we get people from out of town. That's one of the things they have as riders.
So I guess that sponsorship wouldn't show up in your request on your paperwork because that was a month ago you submitted or 6 weeks ago?
Sorry, I didn't understand the
That
question.
money that you've received now wouldn't be in your submission from, say, 2 months ago when you submitted the application?
No.
Okay,
No, and we're negotiating with different groups. We're trying to get a hold of Starbucks and Tim Hortons, and we've got interest from Spirit Ridge. A lot of this may not turn into cash this year because we're a little late in asking people. And so I'm not sure what we can expect.
oh, no, I think it's fantastic that you're reaching out for sponsorship besides just money from the town. I have another question. You talked about a tip jar. Do you know how much you received last year in that tip jar?
Yes, I do.
Could you tell us?
Yes, I can.
And I'll wait for
I'd
the
rather
answer.
not tell. Well, you know, it's $3,700. That's the bottle that was on the stage,
Yeah,
that water jug.
Yes.
We have a specific account at the bank, and that money goes directly in there. So we can keep track of all of that. And with our new website, there's a feature on there. It's called Bandzoogle is the website, and they are specifically designed for bands, for people who want to sell records and stuff. They have a thing called a tip jar.
Right.
So actually, we'll be working on it this afternoon, and that's hooked into our bank account as well. So if somebody's on the website, they've been to a concert and they think afterwards or they're going to, they can send $20 in our tip jar and it goes right into our account. So it's
Okay.
all clearly, clear audit trail, that sort of thing.
I appreciate that. Just one question, Mr. Davis, when we went through the application, was that 3,700 identified in the application as revenue?
I don't believe so, but not 100% sure. On the reporting, I think from last year, there was some identification of something in there.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was that amount. So it was probably a different amount from last year.
Oh, okay. And I guess one more question. Can we possibly, if we chose to charge them less instead of 4,000, like the 1,000 that was maybe suggested, are we allowed to do that?
Thank you again, Councillor King. I think what I made a note of here is if we did that reduction, then we would be providing a grant for $2,900. It was $3,900 is what the actual cost was for the park rental, which included a nonprofit fee, the fee for the application, and anything else associated to our fees and charges. So I guess if council made that motion as part of that, they could do that. And that probably could be done this afternoon as well.
The actual cost of operating our program this year, if we do, is $50,000.
Go ahead, Councillor Chong.
Thank you. So I've always been a huge supporter of music in the park. Personally, it's not my type of music, and of course, with a young child, it makes it hard to get out. But I see the value it brings to Osoyoos, and I see the efforts the volunteers put in, and it's amazing. It's really awesome to see. I just want to clarify a few numbers. How many concerts did we have last year?
12.
12, and on average about 700 attendees.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're looking at 9,400 total. Did you find that there was a core group of local attendees, and then you'd also see a lot of unique attendees as well?
Yeah, there is definitely a core group. You can tell by what the time of day. They know where to go, where the shade is, so they're on the corner near the lawn bowling.
Mhm.
But as we've been reaching out to corporate, especially with Watermark, because they're right there, they've agreed to include our miniature poster in every check-in for their guests that come in the summer.
Mhm.
So that I think that will increase, and it's just very difficult to track people where they're from,
Yes.
other than a show of hands or something. But we hope with our new website and with more assistance through the hotels and stuff, that we'll be able to do that better.
Because just off the top of my head, is there maybe an idea of creating more of a locals pass, so it's free for locals to attend, but we charge a very nominal fee, maybe a toonie for visitors to attend? Because when you're looking at numbers like 2,400, let's say off the top of my head, 50% are tourists. I mean, I have no rationale for that number, but let's just say. I mean, at that, I mean, you're looking at $9,000 of revenue generation that would cover the increase in facility rentals, and it would subsidize a good amount of the grant funding, and also respects the desire to keep it barrier free and really just making sure that our local community has more participation. And frankly speaking, a toonie I wouldn't be considered a barrier nowadays, anyways, with the cost of living. But just an idea.
I think what we rely on our Clint with his small voice to
Clint, please come up. I'm assuming that the tip jar was mostly people who were from out of town that were doing exactly what you suggested. Am I correct?
Yeah, the thing that kind of gets me is the fact that we're always looking for ways to get out of what we're trying to do, such as your suggestion is charging the locals or okay, that doesn't really matter, the tourists or whatever. For one thing, you're in an open park, so that won't work. How are you going to channel those people into paying when the people who live here don't? Are you going to fence it off? Are you going to do all that? Well, if you're going to start getting into that attitude about saying we're going to get them to pick up some of the costs, well, then we're now increasing our costs on the $4,000 bill because we got to have somebody to put the fencing up. So I find it, in this day and age, we're trying to find ways to give something to someone for nothing. And it seems to be that everybody wants to have their fingers in the pot. It doesn't work. This is a free thing. This is the best thing you'll get, the best bang for your buck, other than the big parade, right? But so,
Thanks.
yeah.
Thank you, Clint.
All I
We-
got to say is that don't take away what's already there.
And
I think-
absolutely, we appreciate it. And you need to know it's not free, of course, because you know that everybody contributes, plus the people in the town, because they are also giving of the grant that you're asking for. So nothing is free, but absolutely, we're trying to make it accessible for everybody. We agree.
I think that we could say, perhaps those from out of town, if you'd like to donate to our tip jar, that's certainly
Yeah.
reasonable. We were quite surprised, me most surprised about the tip jar being so heavily supported. People are putting 20s and 50s in there, some of them.
Can I just ask, the tip jar that you have in the bank, the money for that, has that been earmarked for something in particular? Or,
We haven't done that as yet. We're just waiting to
Okay.
see, we've got our, the bands that we've contacted, we have them penciled in. And the same with our sponsors, do you want to do a night that's just devoted to your company? We could do that if you want, that sort of thing. We haven't had enough money yet to do it, but that's an option. We have a feature of you can introduce the band if you give enough money and that sort of thing. But I was quite surprised, and I was the reluctant one to do the tip jar because of accountability and so on. But now that we've got this set up and we just, it accumulates. So we could do one night that's called, I don't know, we call him Phil, because Clint always says fill
the jar.
fill the jar.
Yeah.
So his name is Phil. And we could have Phil's night or something, audience. Yeah.
so thank you very much for presenting and for giving us all that information. And we are just, that this afternoon that we're going to go through each ask on for the grants, and the committee has made a report to provide to council. So we will look at those then. And we thank all of you, all the volunteers, for doing a great job. So thank you.
One final pitch here. If the recommendation goes ahead the way that it's set up now, 32.5 and then the 4,000, we'll actually get less money than last year.
Yeah.
Okay.
We see that. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. There's
Thank you
also
very-
lots of other groups that are asking for money.
Oh, I know.
That's
I
that's
know.
the issue for
Yeah.
sure. Thank you, Janice.
Thank you.
So now we will go back to the Desert Park Exhibition Society. Oh, Nathan, are you going to come up and speak for that? Please. So, well, that's a good thing. Please turn on the microphone and go ahead. Thank you.
There we go. You guys want me to just go over the whole presentation? Is that what you're looking for?
I think what you're trying to do is tell us why we should include this in the grant committee,
'Kay.
okay?
No problem. So Desert Park, well, hi, everybody anyways. Desert Park's been around since the 1960s. I think the first barn from Gail Hochsteiner said it was built in around 1961. And these barns have been there ever since, and not a lot of money has gone back into them. So on our grant, what we're doing, we're hoping to get some money to be able to upgrade the infrastructure for the barns, because some of the walls they're starting to fall apart and rot out, and they just need some repair. So we have more borders up there than we ever had before. It used to be all based around racehorses coming in and out, and since racehorses are kind of going down with all that trend, and now so we're trying to use Desert Park now more as a boarding spot and places for people to ride and do equestrian events and We've been doing barrel racing, as you guys all know. And so a lot of the people that board there do the barrel racing, and so we're just trying to keep our facility up to date and have not have the barns fall over in the future, and is a big thing. So as we looked at the barns, some of the walls are run out and some of them are being pushed in, and we've started repairs on them, but they're quite large barns, and so we're just trying to get some money to actually go ahead and repair each wall there, take it apart, replace it with treated lumber, and then put all the siding back on, so it'll be back up to a good standard and can last hopefully another 50 years. Yes.
Thank you. Can we just see if anybody on council would like to ask some questions? You
No.
open to that?
No, just kidding.
No?
Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. Thank you. Is there anybody? Councillor King?
A question. Thank you, Madam Mayor. With the barns you're proposing to fix, are they being used right now?
Yes, right now, as of November, we had I think it was around 31 boarders up there. And I think right now we're around 29. They fluctuate in and out. But yes, they're pretty much all full right now, the ones that we need to repair.
And just to follow up then, so are they generating revenue then already?
Yes, right now we charge $150 per month for each barn, for each stall rental. The board has decided to increase the rent, so that is just being discussed right now. And we're hoping that comes in February to up to $200 a month.
So I can't do the arithmetic, but if you took out a loan, would that pay off the loan?
To repair it? Some of it probably would, yes. If, like, we're making, like 30 times 200 is, $6,000. It would cover some of the loan, depending on, how much of a loan you took out and what the interest rate is and all that stuff. I think we're looking around, $35,000 of cost to repair each barn the way we want, and that'll be definitely with volunteer hours and things that way.
I ask one more question. Wouldn't it be prudent to sort of do one barn at a time because all the animals would have to be moved out while you're doing the repairs? So wouldn't you be better like to do one barn at a time, sort of over 2 years, say?
Yeah, that would work perfect for us. I don't think we have enough energy as the volunteers and the workers up there to do all the barns at one time and move the horses around. Probably the plan would be is to start on one section, move a couple horses out of the stalls, repair a wall as we go, then put them back into their stalls. So we don't have to move the whole barn out while we do the repairs.
I gotta ask again. So then could you get away, say, with a third of this money and then come back next year for another third and another third? Would that work?
Yeah, I'm sure that would work. Anything would be appreciated just to start doing some progress up there. We do have some revenue coming in from other streams, like we hold a dance every year and bring money in, and we make a little bit of money from donations from the barrel racing and the concession stand we have up there. So we do have some revenue coming in. Just I think last year we had about a $16,000 of profit there. So there is revenue coming in to be able to put towards this, but it's just not enough to do the whole thing.
Oh, no, I completely support the racetrack. I think you guys are doing a great job with all the volunteering the hours, the barrel racing. I think the ladies are pretty excited up there. So thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. Councillor Chong.
Thank you. Once again, echoing Councillor King's sentiments, you guys are doing a great job up there. And it's, to me, it's essentially town-owned property, so whenever we have the opportunity to make improvements at significantly reduced cost, I think it's a win. I do want to highlight, we did asset management for our rec facilities, and from that assessment, it would be 100, what is it? It's horse barn A is very poor with 5 years of life left and valued at $900,000. So in terms of replacement, I just want to make sure that this number is accurate, because it seems low to me. I'm not a contractor by any means, but after having seen reports with building estimates, it seems low. So I just want to make sure, like, if you could kind of clarify as to why this would be a lower number as compared to if we were to put it out to tender or RFP or anything like that.
Well, if it goes out to tender, there's gonna be significantly less volunteer hours put into it. When we do the material, there's zero markup on it. It is, we got a quote from the building supplies. It was $17,000. Marty wants to talk here. She knows numbers better.
I'm the number person behind everything. So we received a quote from the building center in March.
Excuse me, can you identify yourself first?
sorry.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It was just Nathan that I knew.
I'm Marty Bishop. I'm the treasurer and recording secretary for Desert Park.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Well, I guess I shouldn't say the treasurer. I'm the
bookkeeper.
bookkeeper. Nathan's the treasurer. We received a quote from the building center in March last year as to what the material costs would be. And that was just over 16,000 that was in March, when cost of materials were still low, before everything just kind of went through the roof. And so we did basically, I think it was a 15% increase to account for the fact that materials are going up. We've got $11,000 in paid labor. That's based on 5 weeks of $2,200 or $2,300 per week. And then we had a contingency fund of $4,500 to cover the things that we weren't accounting for like using some of the pipes, the water pipes. If they were broken, we would fix them. The electrical, if there was upgrades that didn't suit because we're trying to use as much of the current material that we have. And then, like the plumbing, we can still use, the electrical, we can still use, but we want to upgrade the foundation parts, like the treated wood and the siding, replace it with stuff that is going to last for a long time, as opposed to replacing it with just plywood. And then we will be bringing in some dirt to put into the floors so that the foundations can't get dug up underneath. And that's was the costs that we had, the fixed costs that we knew of. And the rest that we were going to be putting in was like Nathan's volunteering time and his crews, some of his crews. We do have other volunteers that we'll be putting in a number of man hours. So does that?
That's a
Thank you.
fantastic
Yeah,
answer,
there's
Marty.
definitely, there will be some few costs that Desert Park will put into there just by themselves, because we didn't, some of the material that's going in there we have on site already, so it'll just be putting that in as ourselves as a part of the cost.
Thank you. Councillor Poderica.
Thank you, Richard. With the proposed repair and work being, for the barns, what's the extension of life you would hope to expect out of those improvements?
All the trusses are good in the barn. All the roof is, it's a barn. It doesn't have to be perfect on there. If it's a little leak, it's not horrible. There's nothing inside that's like drywall or anything. Once the walls are replaced and everything's holding up good again, I would hopefully you could have the same amount of life as it has already.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Well, thank you very much for your presentation. And as I said, we don't make any decisions right now, but we will definitely have a look at this and before we do any deciding this afternoon.
No
Thank
problem.
you.
Thanks for having us.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you very much for even considering the application.
Thank you for all the work that you do. Okay. We will now go into staff reports and the delegation of authority amendment bylaw, and that would be Ms. Duong. Go ahead, please.
Great, thank you. And as always, I do have a presentation just to give a bit of background. All right, so just a bit of back.
Excuse me, could I ask the people at the back, please, to be quiet when we're doing, thank you.
So just a bit of background as to why this item is before council today. Between August and December 2024, the town has received 3 different referrals from the Liquor and Cannabis Regulation Branch from the province, which relate to, just as examples, we've got we had one application that council has seen already, which was an extension to liquor service hours. And we've received a couple of referrals in relation to patron participation entertainment endorsements, which are largely in relation to things like dancing, karaoke nights, trivia nights, and things like that. So we've had a bit of discussion at a staff level as to how we can better streamline our processes in reviewing these types of applications or referrals. So that's just a bit of the background as to why this has landed here today. Now the fun stuff, the statutory context, you may remember this from the fall when we did review that referral for the extension to liquor licensing or liquor service hours. But I'll go through it again just so that you have an overview of what the province requires the town to do. So the two main pieces of legislation regulation which regulate liquor licensing within the province are the Liquor Control and Licensing Act, as well as the associated Liquor Control and Licensing Regulation. So these pieces of legislation require that where certain liquor license applications are made, the local government is to be notified of that application. And just as some examples, these include applications for permanent extension of hours of liquor service, special event area endorsements, patron participation entertainment endorsements, and lounge area endorsements as well. So when a local government receives these applications, it must then resolve as to whether or not it's going to provide comment on that application or opt out of providing comment. And the Act and regulations set out a process in relation to this. So if council wants to provide comment on an application, it then must take into account the location, capacity, and hours of liquor service of the establishment, and then comment in writing with respect to the impact of the noise on the community in the immediate vicinity of the location of the establishment, as well as the general impact on the community. In order to provide comments, the regulation also does outline a means in which council must gather views of their residents. And this involves receiving written comments in response to a public notice of the application, conducting a public hearing, holding a referendum, or using some other sort of method that council does consider to be appropriate for gathering those comments. And having considered those prescribed criteria and gathered views, the council must then provide to the Liquor and Cannabis Regulation Branch in writing, so by resolution, the views of the residents as was gathered through that public consultation process, a description of the method used to gather those views, a recommendation as to whether that application should be approved or rejected, as well as its reasons for making that recommendation. And so if council resolves to recommend to the Liquor and Cannabis Regulation Branch that the license not be issued or amended, the branch must not issue or amend that license. So there's a couple of options that local governments are provided with in terms of opting out of commenting on LCRB applications. One of these is to advise the LCRB general manager in writing. So again, through a council resolution, that the town does not wish to receive notice of either all application types from the LCRB that require local government notification, or certain types of classes of applications. The other means of doing this is on a case-by-case basis, the town simply determines whether it wishes to provide comment or opt out. So that would involve staff bringing forward a referral every single time and asking council, do you want to provide comment or would you like to opt out? Now, where council opts out of that review process, the Liquor and Cannabis Branch will undertake that public consultation that's laid out in the Act as a means of gathering those views of residents. And that would have otherwise have been undertaken by the town if the town wanted to provide comment. So it would be covered regardless. Now, with respect to the delegation of authority, the Liquor and Cannabis Licensing Act provides municipalities with that ability to delegate its powers and duties as it relates to determining whether to provide comments in response to prescribed application types. So this is quite similar to what we see with other delegated allowances under the Local Government Act, like for example, with development permits. So where delegation is authorized via bylaw amendment, council would typically no longer then receive these referrals for review because they would be processed by the delegate, which is typically the chief, the CAO, or one of their other identified delegates, which tends to be a director position. And then where an applicant were to challenge or disagree with the delegate's comments or recommendations that are made, that could be brought forward to council through a reconsideration process. So with respect to the town's delegation of authority bylaw, the bylaw does set out a number of duties and powers which have been delegated by the town of Vesuvius Council to staff. These duties and powers are typically, as I mentioned, delegated to a CAO or one or more departmental directors, depending on the nature of that type of application or permitting scheme. And in relation to LCRB referrals, council has not yet delegated the authority to deal with these administratively. So that's why you had seen that last referral that it came in back in the fall. So at this point, staff are seeking direction from council as to whether or not we should be initiating amendments to the bylaw to delegate the authority to respond to LCRB referrals at a staff level. If you had looked over the amendment bylaw, this would be to delegate to the CAO as well as the Director of Corporate Services or Director of Financial Services. So just some considerations to make. Delegation of authority to process applications and respond to different types of referrals. That typically streamlines the process as it takes away a lot of time that's required to actually move the referral through our typical review process. So having to prepare a report, bring it to council, and then have to, follow up after a council resolution is made. And I think this is particularly important because the LCRB does stipulate a 90-day processing timeline to actually respond. And so that's 90 days to either tell the LCRB we're not going to comment, we're opting out, or to actually comment on their referral. And that includes all the public consultation requirements that are laid out under the Act. And that would then require staff resources to very quickly prioritize that public consultation. Additionally, when we do see LCRB referrals, we do typically focus on consistency with zoning because that's really one of the large components of what we'd be examining from a planning perspective. However, we will also flag at times any other required authorizations or servicing upgrades as needed. But these would typically be identified and then resolved at the building permit stage. So it's more of a heads up for the applicant at that point. Additionally, in relation to the public process, in any other case where a property owner wants to actually develop or use their land in accordance with zoning, we wouldn't require any further public consultation to take place. And that development or use would simply be able to proceed subject to obtaining any other required authorization. So, if there's any sort of structural changes, a building permit would need to be issued. Uses that are proposed under the LCRB applications and are also consistent with zoning would have otherwise typically already have been subject to a public consultation process in the past. And this would either be, during a broader OCP or zoning bylaw review. So if the use is inconsistent with zoning, when we see that referral, we would flag that a rezoning would be required, which would introduce then the public consultation process as well. Additionally, considering that the LCRB does undertake its own public consultation process in accordance with the Act, if the town were to opt out, there does seem to be minimal benefit of requiring additional consultation. And also, in conjunction with the fact that we would have required public consultation during those previous zoning review processes. That being said, we do recognize that there may be circumstances where certain application types could pose a conflict between neighboring property owners. So if you were to, let's say, have an application to extend liquor service hours on a commercial property that directly abuts residential properties, that could certainly result in potential conflicts with respect to noise nuisances. However, if an applicant gets approval from the LCRB, that doesn't rid that applicant of any sort of obligations to abide by the town's bylaws. So that would include the good neighbor bylaw, and that's typically, involving provisions that seek to mitigate any sort of nuisances and conflicts between neighbors. So we do see there being a bit of a safeguard in that sense. So with that in mind, council is being asked to provide further direction on this item here. So either to initiate the authority, so the delegation of authority amendment bylaw, or maintain the status quo. And should council choose to support the initiation of this bylaw, we would be bringing this forward to a future council meeting. And that is our administrative recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's quite a complicated report that you've given us. I do remember over the years that we have often had these brought back to us, and we've always opted out and said, no, we don't want to go through the process of trying to do it ourselves. So thank you very much for explaining all of that. Council, or questions first? Councillor
thank-
King,
Yeah, thank you,
you're
Madam
in
Mayor.
fine form today.
I guess I go back to the bylaw, if you could bring that up where it says, if we accept this, it says CO and Director of Corporate Service or Director of Financial Service. That implies you need 2 signatures?
It would, sorry, Rod, Mr. Riesling, could you answer that one?
Through your worship, so the proposed wording is 2
2 signatures?
authorizations? Yes.
Okay, that's fine. I just want to
I mean,
clarify.
that's something that
Yep.
when we bring the bylaw forward, we can change.
Is there anything else? Good. Go ahead, Councillor Chong.
I just wanted to move option 1.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded, Councillor Potterica, that we go with option 1, that the Town of Vesuvius delegation of authority amendment bylaw be initiated. All in favor? Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Wong. And we have the meeting has been terminated. All in favor? Thank you very much, everybody.